Okay, so we're live on Facebook, Maria. Welcome, Maria Palumbo, to our co-creative sex
Palumbo.
dialogue. Palumba?
Palumbo.
Palumbo.
Palumbo. Yeah, I like Palumbo too. That sounds kind of French or
Yeah, it's my little French Canadian accent.
Mhm.
Say it again.
Palumbo.
Palumbo, Palumbo,
Thank you.
Palumbo, like Columbo.
Exactly. Wasn't that like a really cool old mystery?
It was. It was a detective show. I love watching
Me
Columbo.
too. Maybe that formed us in a way. I think it
It
formed us.
did. It did. This kind of easygoing guy that's kind of like seasoned between the
Cool,
cracks.
mysterious, don't smile.
They're kind of a little stoic.
Yeah, super hot.
So yeah, so welcome to the Co-Creative Sex Dialogues. I'm really excited to have you because you're always so inspiring and fun to just like really like get ourselves nourished from, because you're just like such a powerful, vibrant force on the internet, but also with words. And
Yeah.
I would just feel like, wow, like whatever's gonna come out of her mouth is like always interesting. So they're lucky tonight.
Aw, thank you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. I'm trying to share you on my page.
Okay, go for it. I'll give you a moment to focus on that. Do you
Thank you.
want me? Yeah, I see shared your video. Great.
I didn't actually introduce it, but I think, okay, this is good. Cool. So what were the amazing things that you were saying before I?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say that I started this whole series on doing body shame, sort of out of these conversations that just start keeping getting momentum, because really what I'm seeing is that, whatever background you are, whatever you look like, everyone carries body shame in some shape or form. And so I reached out to you because I saw these photos that you'd posted on your Facebook page. And I'm always impressed with you. Like, you'll have like these really beautiful, like nicely groomed photos, and then you'll also put these raw, like in your face, like, look what's going on here.
Hmm,
And you don't edit them, and you're just like, and there's also some that have like this raw but also erotic quality to them.
hmm.
And I just thought, yeah, I think Maria is going to have some really interesting things to say about this. And you kind of added another element. You're like, let's talk about as well, like reclaiming body after trauma. And I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people out there too. So when I first say the word body shame, what's the first thing? What comes up for you? What's the image that you have?
Hmm. Probably me at 17, 18, 17 in front of the mirror. I was homeschooled in high school, which means I pretty much taught myself a lot of things. And then I had some classes out with other people. And I used homeschooling as kind of a way to be absorbed into my body and to be over obsessed with my body. So I was always doing a new diet, um, and like always reading Cosmo, thinking that was the feminine thing to do, to be reading Cosmo, worried about how men saw my body, wanting to be attractive. I remember feeling proud of myself because I would limit calories at certain times, and I became very voluptuous, very young, really
Like,
beautiful,
like what age?
and probably like 11. But fully formed who I am now by 14, which is still pretty young. And it was embarrassing for me
Mm-hmm.
in the way that women were jealous of me. I got oogled, stared at by men that were older. I didn't have any sense of value about my body. So I had a lot of shame about it. And I think I attracted a lot of experiences that just reiterated the fact that I felt shame, just really like drilled it in.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
do
And
you feel like that was like a kind of common experience for the girls that were around you at that age in terms of like that body consciousness? Or do you feel like you got a like extra case of it?
That's a great question. By the way, I love your questions. I love your introduction. I think I think you care so much about this topic, and you have such a deep love for your work, and it's refreshing. I
Aw, thank
appreciate
you.
it. Did I have more than other girls? Um, that's a good question. I think we all were healing from some level of patriarchal bullshit, some type of level of abuse, probably. So I probably didn't, but I had a lot of guilt over feeling beautiful or being beautiful. If I felt like it made other people feel insecure, I had this thing that, oh, I don't want to make other women feel insecure. So even in the beginning of my business, I had that mentality of, okay, I have to blend in, I have to use similar lingo, spiritual goddess, la la, frou frou, divine
Right.
this, we're all one, sending you love. And I was like trying to use the language, and I wasn't sure why I wasn't able to connect, but because I wasn't speaking from my body.
I'm so happy you didn't continue that vein because, like, my gosh, I'm so happy you didn't continue that vein because it feels so much cookie cutter, and what you offer and how you put your words together, they're always so alive and real. And it's just like going into someone's, like, almost like subconscious poetry, dub poetry, sort of stream of consciousness, but it's like so alive and full of, like, matter and content, um and edginess, that I'm like, wow, like if it became frou-frou and sort of like, oh, give you love, it would have lost so much of the effectiveness.
Oh, yeah, and I appreciate that, and I think it's kind of a space that we go through when it comes to like our bodies or our business, or
Hmm.
the space of trying to impress, trying to fit in.
Yeah.
What's beautiful? You tell me what's beautiful. You give me my identity. You give me my
Yes.
validation. And then
Yes.
eventually, when we're getting more mature, getting more help, doing more work on ourselves, we can start listening inward and going inward. Okay, what is truly, what's the impact that I'm meant to be making? How can I use my body, use my heart, use my words as an instrument instead of something that I feel like I need to hide or hold back because people can't handle it, or it makes people insecure, or makes people turned on. I mean,
Yeah.
from a very young age, I could feel someone's turn on, and I was like, no, I better like do whatever I can to not turn this person on, coming from my own sexual abuse history, that if somebody was turned on, that's my problem, that's my fault. I'm being too cute, I'm being too sexy. There's something wrong with me, so let me hide myself so they feel comfortable, because they're not able to hold their turn on in a way that's respectful or healthy to me. And I think that's where women get trapped in that modest thinking. Oh, I need to be modest, I need to be this, because it's that fear of, if I get attention, unwanted attention, that's my fault.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
that's
love what you're saying because I remember interviewing this woman that was this really gorgeous woman, and she's a writer, and just like she, the kind of like goddess, if we want to talk about it in that way. Edgy artistic goddess, but she grew up in an environment, and she said that she yearned to, like, she had this a lot of sexual energy too, and she yearned to find, like, she'd almost like try to test out the men with her sexual energy to see who can hold her energy. He was like looking for that older man that could be like be able to receive her goddess sexy powerful energy. And it just sounds a lot like what you're describing there. Like, you're like, okay, well, but with your trauma in mind, you're like, I have to like hide it, but there's this kind of yearning in young women to be able to express their sexuality, be held by the men that are like our elders in a way, to be able to hold that and be able to welcome it in a way that's not threatening for them. Is that is
yes,
that
conversation. That when I was ages 14 to 18, you know what? This is interesting because it doesn't often come up anymore, and I should be sharing this story more. But I was in a secret relationship with the youth pastor of my church, and I realized what was really unfortunate. One of the many things that was unfortunate about that, me being young, him being 10 years older, it being almost illegal, like there's just so many things. One of that was he didn't give me the honor of being able to hold my sexual energy without making it his own. And I use him, but him really represents society, really represents that mentality of, here's this beautiful thing. I'm going to like hold it and take advantage of it and penetrate it on different levels, physically, emotionally, because I'm not able just to respect it. I have to be, I'm consumed by it and I'm obsessed with it. I don't know how to have healthy, like love for it, healthy respect. And I think that is something that women really struggle with in general, something that I struggled with, which is, if someone's not willing to respect me, am I respectable? I must be a piece of trash if someone is treating me like trash, and that creates even more body shame.
Yeah. And that takes a whole lot of education and sort of maturity of sexuality on the older men side to be able to like welcome this vibrancy and, you know, budding sexuality, this young lady, you know. But it's like something that there's a real edge for, I think, us as a society to lean into in that area to, and I know that some men are capable of doing that. Like that was one thing that came from the story, that like there's some people that can do that. And there's like this kind of yearning that was really fulfilling to have that experience, and that it's not a, it's a place where you can try it out, but you're safe, you know?
Yeah, I think in that time I was able to access this like beautiful orgasmic energy. I was just so alive, so happy, so safe. And I think through that, and then it quickly was taken from me, from how the whole thing occurred and what went down and disrespect that occurred through it. And I realized my life has been a reclaiming of my sensuality, my sexuality, my orgasm it's been me calling me back to myself, like, wake up, like, come back, like, be here. Don't give your sex away, but also don't hold it so precious where it's like, I don't get to enjoy this.
Exactly. So like when you're a kid, like, did you already have an experience of your that vibrancy and that aliveness and that sexuality as a young girl before the trauma happened? Was there something that you recall that you're like that kind of vibrancy?
Huh. I think that's a great thought. Oh my God, I would love to have more memories from my childhood. I don't have many, but I think there's one where I made a slide on, like, I put leaves down the slide of my best friend's house. I think his name was Jason. And we put leaves down the slide. We made it a water slide. We went down the slide. I was like, now it's time that you kiss me. I think I was 5. Like, it's time to kiss. And we got to do it on your porch. So we went over to his porch and we kissed. It was just like on the lips. And I remember feeling so excited and just like, this is so fun. I immediately got in trouble, which I immediately went back into my little shell. But there was a moment of,
this is exciting energy.
This is just, I feel alive. This is exciting. This feels good. It doesn't feel scary.
Yeah, totally. So just tell us more, because like, yeah, that piece of trauma was like, you know, I think it's an interesting one to go into. And I think a lot of people will be, you know, looking to your story to find ways for themselves to move past this and reclaim themselves. But at what point, like, was the trauma with the pastor, or was there anything before that?
Yes, I had a memory come up, and this has never happened to me in my life, but I had this odd memory of me being a child and being in some form of sexual abusive situation. And when the memory came up, I actually felt like I was dying. Like, I started screaming. I started like running. Like I started running. I like jumped in the shower and turned the shower on, and I was like heaving tears. I've never had this experience in my life. And I remember thinking like, wow, like I must really be fucked up. Like, I was shaking. I was like nervous. And for a couple of like days afterwards, I was just didn't feel like I was really in my body. And I realized it was really hard for me to claim that, because I didn't really have many memories. And this is the biggest part of sexual abuse, is that if there's not many memories, if there's not a lot of clarity, and especially if people that you feel it's connected to are like, fuck you, you're insane, you're ruining my life, like, which is something that people typically say in those situations. Yeah. That happens, it's really hard to like integrate it and do the healing for it. So it took me a long time to really name it in therapy, because I'm like, I don't know if I have anything to talk about. It wasn't that bad. I think it might have been with this person, one of my parents, like, I think it was that, but I'm pretty sure. And it was just so hard for me to really claim support. But once I did, life got a lot easier. But it's an ongoing process. I'm constantly in my own healing. And
but that's a really good point. That whole thing around where it's like, it could be like something that happens and it's not clear exactly. There's a feeling that something's wrong. And yet the consequence on the family system or the community, it just feels so devastating, even to like introduce the idea. And it's like, there's such a it's so scary to take that on.
It is. And I honestly think that's more sexual abuse than not. Just a feeling, just an energy, just an inappropriate energy between mother and son, or between father and daughter, or between older brother. Like, there's just like this inappropriate thing that nobody can put their finger on, but we're all pretending it's not happening. And we don't call it abuse because maybe there's no genital touching. In my memory, there was the genital touching in that memory, but there often isn't. So a lot of people struggle with getting help while they're traumatized because it's like, well, I wasn't sexually abused. It's like, well, but you have all of the symptoms, like maybe obsessed with sex, or shut down in your sex, anxiety, depression, drug abuse. Like, all of these are incredibly common outcome of any level of bodily, sexual, emotional abuse.
Right. And then that happened, and then something got even more amplified in that situation with the pastor. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
We're jumping. Okay, so we just did my memory from childhood. Now we're jumping back to the pastor.
Unless there's something you want to say in between those two, but it seemed like that was like an important piece for you.
I think what I'll say in between those two is, I think I was attracted to very broken men from that experience. Like, since I was a child, I think I was very attracted to the broken man that I could help, that needed my help, that maybe leaned on me too much. I started adopting codependent behaviors. I didn't realize I was codependent. Started adopting love addictive behaviors. Didn't know that I was love addicted. So at age 14, I decided that I would focus on the church instead of like dating, and I would just throw myself into religion, and that God would protect me and I wouldn't have to think about my sex like I had to when I was dating someone. When I threw myself into the church, what happened was a deep sense of guilt, because I was told by the pastor that if I wasn't so beautiful, if I wasn't so powerful, then he wouldn't have had that problem, which is a very like classic way that people can get their way, which is, if you weren't this, then I wouldn't be that. But you're either making me angry or you're making me horny, like you're doing all these things. And so I remember feeling very trapped in the relationship, feeling a lot of love, thinking I was going to marry him. We talked about marriage and my mind was going there very young. I think traumatized people often get married really young. It's like a safe place to just hide our drama.
How old were you again? Just to put you a number on that again. How old were you again when you went into the church?
I was between the ages of 14 to 17.
Okay.
So I began having a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. I began to be depressed because in that relationship, and I want to preface this by saying I've done a lot of forgiveness for him. I don't know if we have time to talk about that, but that's a really important part of healing.
Absolutely,
We can do that another time. But he put a lot of guilt onto me that there was something wrong with me. I got into therapy. I became very depressed. He was pulling back. I was feeling incredibly rejected. So now I notice that, like, if a man withdraws from me, it's like that core, like, daddy wound, or that core wound with that. He was kind of my first love, actually, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So he withdrew. I became very depressed.
Yeah. Just before you go a little bit more into that, I'm just curious, like, so how did the relationship develop? It was like you were in the sermons, or was there a Sunday school or something? And would you have a lot of moments where you're talking alone, or was it more group things? Like, how did that develop?
I think that's a good question. I don't even know. Our families just were connected in a way. And my mother really liked him a lot.
Yeah.
My mom didn't know better, and he was very likable. I think people who have any sexual problem are usually the most charming, loving people you can't get enough of them. They're just like incredible humans, and that's who he was. He was deeply loved by my family, deeply loved by the church. Incredible human, like literally one of the most fun humans, deep, loving humans. And I became a youth group member and just spent a lot of time with him. I started leading a youth group, even though I was pretty young. I started teaching with him at times, I believe, and leading Bible studies. And to combine attraction, lust, and sex with God is a cocktail that's incredibly potent and very difficult to get out of.
Wow.
So we would pray
That's
together.
beautifully said. Yeah.
What's that?
That's beautifully said. Like this cocktail, like it's a very intense and very devotional, very powerful feelings, you know, very intense feelings.
It is spirituality, and oh my God, plus
and a sense of belonging too,
community
and feeling seen.
Big time. And I was really a safe place for him. I felt very powerful. Like when an older person falls in love with a younger person, like the younger person, it's like power. I feel very powerful. I feel very needed. I feel very special. I'm like, wow, I must be special. If you think I'm special, I must be special. I must be something. So I'm like, my ego is like, yay, like I'm finally getting the attention that I deserve, finally falling in love. And but again,
were you homeschooling during that period too? Or was it later on?
I think so.
Yeah. So it really became your social experience, really.
It did. He taught me to drive. He was my best friend. He really was my best friend, because that's what secrets do. They make you obsessed with the person that the secret's with. So all of a sudden you have this private little world, and you're protective of them, and they're protective of you. And it's this weird, unhealthy, sick relationship of pushing away the world and leading into each other, and not trusting anybody, not talking to anybody else. That's very abusive dynamic.
Yeah. How did it start sort of falling apart?
I think he recognized what he was doing was wrong. Plus, I was getting depressed. I was feeling used. I was starting to feel like, I remember feeling like, I think I wrote down like a Christian blow up doll. Like you just want something from me, and then that's it. You're not emotionally available to me anymore. And it was scary. And I was feeling addicted to him. Like, when's he coming back? When's he going to love me again? When's he going to show me affection? He'll eventually do it. Like waiting and obsessing and comparing him. Like he started being nice to other youth leaders and feeling jealous. Like, why is he spending more energy and time with other youth leaders now? And it's a common spin that happens with women when they're not chosen, which is why? What can I do to be chosen? Let me be chosen. I'm going to fight. I'm going to do whatever I can. So of course he was being elusive. He was pulling back, knowing that it wasn't healthy for us to be involved. And that separation.
And were you like completely sexually involved at this point with him?
I'm sorry?
Were you completely sexually involved with him at this point?
We were. And so he pulled back, and that was like one of the most painful experiences. I felt like my heart was like being ripped from my chest. Like, where is my person? I literally had nobody else. Nobody else I could trust, because we were the only ones that knew our secret. So like, if my person disappears, who am I? Do I even exist? Am I even worthy of any attention? If the person I love the most, who's been naked with me, and I'm not even naked with people, and like I was making a decision to be like abstinent and to not be sexually involved. Like, if he rejects me, I must really be an idiot. So again, that's the dynamic of abuse, which is you're either on top of the mountain if they choose you, or choose you, then it's like, bam, you are in hell. There's nothing worse. And an addiction to trying to get them back into your life.
That's really well described. Like, I can really feel the sensation of that, like of that, you know, that hunger that's like, you know, and then you get like given little pieces or not, but there's like, you know, someone else is getting fed in front of you, and you're like, hey, I'm like, you know, in the desert, hungry. You know, it's just like, I really feel the edge of that intensity.
Yeah, it creates an addiction for intensity. To have such traumatic experiences so young, it really created, it tweaked my brain to think that obsession, addiction, codependency, letting someone control me is normal. And my brain was just like, like always looking for like high volatile situations. Like, oh, that man's in love with someone else and she rejected him and I can comfort him. Let me help him and eventually he'll love me. Or this person who's kind of creepy and has his problem, but I'm going to love them. And like mission dating became the way that I related to myself.
That totally reminds me too, like, you know, even that mission of God, you know, if that person's, even if they're like, you know, reject or whatever, it's like, you're going to love them and sort of save them. You know, there's a lot of different emotions I can imagine that can get sort of brought into that, sort of different ideologies and different things that drive it.
That's totally it. If I'm a good Christian, if I'm a good lover of God, well then what my love will eventually turn them to me, or my love will turn them to themselves, or my love can redeem someone from the pits of hell. Or it's a very mind fuckery that happens in those situations. But love is about sacrifice, is about pain sometimes.
Yes.
Like, we don't have to be happy. We don't have to have anything good. Let's just stay together and suffer together.
Yeah. And so when you bring in body shame into this scenario, what do you see?
Are you talking about with the youth pastor or in general with Christianity?
Yeah, this specific situation that was unfolding. How did that play out in your body shame?
Yeah, I definitely became more disordered around my eating because I felt so out of control, and eating was the only place that I could be in control. So I became really obsessed with food, and ultimately my body just felt like a trash can. I felt so disposable that I treated myself that way. And I think that's what a lot of women, the women that I work with, what we're healing ourselves from, which is feeling disposable and learning the truth that our bodies, our sex are not disposable, that they're such a gift, even if someone treats it as disposable or is very nonchalant with it. And I'm just working with my women, one of my groups right now, Women on Fire, about this. Like, if someone's nonchalant, it can create the addiction in my body to somehow make them passionate about me. And my body, like my needs and my desires don't exist. And I have a lot of shame about myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't be trying to convince that person to love me or convince that person to want me. So my shame is really based upon the fact that here I am still with this man, even though I know he's using me. And part of me kind of likes it. Maybe part of me likes being numb, and that's really fucked up. So here I am just like completely fucked up. And at that point, feeling like a loser, feeling disposable. I was pretty much cast out of the church. I couldn't go back because of what happened, how it went happen, and how it went down. And how
did other people find out about it?
It was, that's a good question. Nobody knew exactly that it was me, but they made an announcement saying that he had a relationship with one of the youth. He was fired. But nobody had definitely said that it was me. But the few people that did know that it was me weren't really as supportive as they could have been, because they were distracted by their own pain and their own judgment. I remember the pastor's wife actually told me, like, you knew what you were doing. Like, me at 16, like, you knew what you're doing. Like, you knew what you're doing with your beauty or your body. And I was like, fuck. So that set me in this like spiral down of like, shit, like maybe God is mad at me. Maybe, you know, and I didn't know that it was their version of God. I had to reclaim my connection to God, which meant going into the fields, like crying in the field, like dancing in the field, taking my shirt off at the top of a mountain and like dancing and feeling the sun. My mom thought I was crazy, knowing that I was like in my bra dancing, trying to reclaim me. And I went from church to church to church. I went from synagogue to Baptist church to, like, I went over like all these different places really looking for God. And when I found God, I realized it was in mystics, in the mystic poetry. That's when I felt my true communion to God.
Wow, you're giving me shivers. Wow.
Yeah, which the communion with God was actually with my own body. And that's what the Rumi, Hafiz, the saints, actually through the interpretation of Daniel Levinsky's Love Poems from God. It's my Bible. It's a book that literally saved my life. The minute I opened it, I went from I'm a loser, I'm outside of the realm of God, to I am God. Like, I am alive in God and I can never be separated. And anybody who tells me that is more broken than I am, or they're at least more in denial than I am.
So that was like the pivotal point where you started like shifting your mindset and finding your access to like your healing path.
That's exactly it. And I remember hearing a voice inside of me that's like, okay, you're going to heal yourself and you're going to teach other women how to do it. And I was like, oh, that's kind of fucking cool, because I thought I wanted to go into psychology, but I'm like, I'm too broken. I don't know if I can. But I was like, all right, maybe I'm supposed to go into psychology. Maybe I can do something in this realm. Like, holy fuck, that was really clear. You're going to heal yourself and you're going to help other women heal themselves. So that's essentially what I do now, like incredibly transparent. I've been there, done that with like mostly every woman that comes into my door. And it makes it incredibly easy for women to really get the power of their bodies when I've been there, done that, and I've experienced it, and I experience it alongside of them.
Right. Yeah, like one thing I really like about how you approach things is that you really, you do a lot of modeling for everyone of like, sharing what you're going through, how you're reclaiming yourself, and almost like creating these blueprints of like courage, how do you go about reclaiming yourself? So like once you found that text, like what was the journey of healing? What did that look like?
Hell. It was a lot of hell first. I think definitely bouts of hell. I felt alone. I still felt like I had a scarlet letter on me, and everywhere I went, people were gonna know I was rejected by the youth pastor. Like
just to like clarify that when you were in the church, he got expelled from the church?
Yes, because what happened was I was suicidal, and eventually I went to a different therapist on a whim. Like I have to see a different therapist because I don't know I could do anything. And that one therapy session, after probably a year of being in therapy, after a new therapist came in, she asked me like 3 questions. Did you have oral sex? Did you have this? And I was like, what do you mean by oral sex? I was 17 at that point and didn't know that oral sex was sex. Yeah, like we were very intimate, like we were boyfriend. Like, what do you mean by that? And the fact that she found out, she broke confidentiality. She told the head pastor of the church. And if you can imagine, it's a lot to experience as a young person, like all of this.
There's a betrayal there too at the same time.
There is, but I took it as she was saving my life.
Really totally. That's cool. Yeah.
And when she told the head pastor of the church, people came over to my house, knocked on my door, and I didn't know what I was going to do that day. I remember taking a shower just because the head pastor was coming over to my church. I was like, well, I better shower. Like, I better not be a mess. I better not be like, I don't want him to see how heavily depressed that I am. I remember my hair was dripping wet. And then they looked at me and they said, like, we know what happened. And hopefully you can get help now. Like, we want to help. So
Powerful.
It was bouts of hell. When I say hell, I still felt lonely after that. I wasn't really helped in the ways that I really needed because society doesn't know how to help.
Yeah.
I feel like only the few of us who've been through it and been through the system can tell you that it's broken. But at least I did get therapy. At least I started studying with trauma specialists. I did start going down that route, but it took me like 5 years to get through community college because I was fucking around. I was depressed. I quit classes for no reason. When I finally graduated and got on to get my bachelor's, I won awards. I started a feminist literary journal. Like, something happened where I woke up. I moved out of my house, which was really healthy for me too, to not live in a parental situation where someone had power over me. Even though it was also very supportive, and my mom actually helped me get through it. I get through what I went through. There was also, I needed to be able to stand on my own 2 feet in a way, energetically, emotionally. And the healing journey looked like focusing on something outside of myself, making an impact, starting a feminist literary journal. I won awards for that. I was given like a gender studies award, and I was also given a Clinton Global Initiative Award for young leaders, which all brought me back. It's like, okay, whoa, I have purpose. And that's the beautiful thing, people who go through trauma, is
I love how the arts is what really like allowed you to like express yourself and find some sort of, way of channeling and being like self-expressed in your experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful thing of people who've been through trauma. Like, we can go through the fire, but then we become the fire. And that's why my group is called Women on Fire. When I say become the fire, it means like I shine brighter than I ever thought possible. I just have to walk through that fire first in order to become this aliveness, this beautiful energy in the world that people want to hold their hands on. But I have to be willing to face my own darkness in order to get to a place of being able to give and being able
Yeah.
to give back.
Right. So like one of the reasons I asked that at the beginning was like, was it because the new pastor with his wife, they're the ones who said like, we know it's you kind of thing? Because he wasn't married, the pastor.
Well,
That
the pastor that I was involved with, he was not married at that point, but he was
okay.
married in the beginning.
Okay.
They did know it was me because the therapist broke confidentiality.
Right. Okay.
And then at that point, I was just trying to get out of bed.
Yeah.
I remember I had to go to, I had to go into, what's it called when you sit under a light and someone asks you a lot of questions. I was investigated actually
Yeah.
at that.
Like interrogation kind of thing.
Yeah. And I remember like having a box of my letters from him and like a tissue
Wow.
next to it. And they're like, how many times did you have oral sex? I'm like, I don't know. I think I probably dissociated. I don't think it was that much. And they're like, you have no case. But if he tries to work again with the youth, he'll never be able to work again, which actually kind of hurt too. Because I'm like, oh my God, this person was an amazing youth leader. Like, I'm telling you, I know this sounds ridiculous, but again, people who do have these issues can be really wonderful in a lot of ways.
Well, you adulated him, so he's like amazing. He like, you know, there's a reason too why you're like looked up to him and thought he was amazing.
True. And yeah, people often do that. Young people often do that with adults, but it was just, and then I remember working at my parents' salon and but yet running in the other room and crying when I saw this old man and this child, and I saw the way he touched her. And there were so many things happening, and I like called like child services right away. And they were like, oh yeah, he's already on our radar. Like, I became so awake that I could spot things everywhere I went. And I was actually becoming flooded by the pain
Information.
Yeah. Which is another stage that women go through that are empathic, constantly being flooded. Men go through this too, just being flooded by other people's stuff and feeling so much that we can shut down, turn off, numb out.
Yeah. I love how you're really describing all these different phases that you go through, and they're like waves almost, like of intensity of different color. You know?
Yeah.
So you were sort of getting into this sort of artistic place where you were using art as a way of like, wow, suddenly realizing you had a voice and also impact and were being celebrated for it. And for anyone who doesn't know Maria's work, like go read her Facebook page. It's always so fascinating. It really is alive and powerful work. So like, I'm always waiting for your book to come out, or like a collection of like poetry or something.
Yes, I'm on that. Energetically, I'm on it.
Yeah. But yeah, so this became like your way, and you created programs for women, but like I'd still like to hear more about like that whole reclamation process, because this podcast is really about that too. Like, how do you reclaim yourself after trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like you had there's phases, and you know, and then there was the art piece. How did you start feeling better about your body?
My mom, she was like, okay, if you're not going to do medicine, you need to go to bed. You need to wake up at a certain time. You need to exercise. You need to start eating better for your brain. And she was fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
Very much so a lifeline for me in a lot of ways. And I started listening. I just started rebooting my brain. I felt uncomfortable for years. I felt depressed for years. I felt like this numbness. And I'm like, why is everybody else enjoying life? I feel like I'm behind this veil, and everybody else is having life, and I could even be with them, and I still don't feel like I'm with them. So really it became me just honoring, like, yeah, this feels uncomfortable, and I'm still going to start a band. Yeah, this feels uncomfortable, and I'm still going to go to college. Yeah, I'm still going to make an impact, even though I don't feel completely 100% worthy or valuable. I just did it. Like, I just started doing it. I also got into therapy and stayed in therapy. I've been in therapy since I was 18. I'm 35 now. I've always done like free therapy when I was in school. That is how I reclaimed myself for sure.
You mean, what do you mean by free therapy? What do you mean?
Did I say free therapy? I've been through therapy since I was 18.
Okay. Maybe I just didn't hear you properly.
Yeah. And I mean, that was super helpful. Personal development and healing myself became my passion, and also became something, it was necessary for me.
Yeah. Well,
I
it's like you're not feeling good and they're doing something and you're actually feeling like release, right? And feeling little burdens taken off. And it's like, this is the way. This feels better.
Exactly. It's like a broken arm. Like I had a broken arm and I knew it, it was actually more complex healing than just a simple thing. It just needed
Yeah.
a lot of time, a lot of support. And even now I still get support. I'm not healed. There is no healed. I feel whole. I'm embracing parts of me that hurt. I'm embracing parts of me that are scared. I do the thing anyway, even if I don't feel healed or perfect or ready. It took me years to get to find this path that I'm on right now and just trust it. It's like,
Yeah.
I veer off of it from a man, like I get distracted. Oh, he broke up with me or he doesn't love me. And then I'm like, and then I get back on my path. Okay, I can't be pulled aside by men. Like when I met my husband, I decided I wasn't going to date. I'm like, I'm not going to date anymore. I've been pulled aside by men my whole life. They've been telling me what my body should be like, what my body is, and giving me value around my body. No. And I think that energy actually attracted someone healthy because I knew it was my turn to put myself first, to really.
That's a really interesting thing. Like you really made that decision and decided like no to something. And then it was like opened up the possibility for something new.
Exactly.
Okay. So like, so you met your husband and how did that help you in your path?
Oh, big time. I don't think anything really heals us more than love, than actual powerful love. Like lust is great, fucking amazing. Sexual attraction, wow. Like being liked, toxicity, drama, it's all fun, but actual love, that's when I started to experience, I think, my value in a whole other way because this human could respect me, be kind to me, didn't play any games. He was just available from day one. He wanted to commit to me like after a month. I'm like, who is this person? I was hanging out with men that were like, we're hanging out. Okay. Like, I don't want to, like, let's be cool. So I'm like, I'm going to be cool. I don't need to commit or blah, blah, blah. But yeah, we're time together and my legs are always open for you, but let's not commit. Let's not call it anything. So I was kind of in that realm. And then here's this person that was just so open. My first reaction was terror, which is something that I work on a lot with my women, which is being prepared for the terror and the fear that comes when we get what we want. It's very, makes you, it's a mind fuck to really get what you want. It makes everything spin. So I had to learn to be uncomfortable and learn to be scared because I never experienced that before. I was always in control. I knew what was happening. I knew that he wasn't really available, but I stayed. But when it was my husband, I didn't know what was happening. Like, why is this person giving to me for no reason? I don't feel like I earned it. He just likes me and wants to be in my company. Like, how is that?
How did he spot you?
That's a great question. I was dating somebody else, very sexy musician at the time. And I was miserably dating the sexy musician. And my boyfriend at the time brought me to Steve's house for a party. And I met Steve right away and he opened the door and I was like, who is this clean creature? I feel like everybody comes with pain and suffering and he's just clean. Like this energy of I'm right here. Hi, welcome to my home. Not up here, not somewhere else. I was just like
really in the heart space.
I was so taken. I was like, oh my God. So we talked all night laughing nonstop. And I'm like, I'm not good enough for this person. And I'm dating this person. And I'm not even good enough for him. And I actually just stalked him on Facebook for like 9 months after that, while I was still in the relationship with the other guy. And it took time for us to finally get together, for me to think I was worthy, and also for him to get the guts.
Yeah.
And we
I love it. Yeah, there's a guts element because like you're like this powerful whirlwind of energy, and then he's like this pure, like kind of like presence, and it's like, how do I meet that?
He is. Oh, that's really sweet. I wonder if he was intimidated. That would be cool. I don't think he was. I don't know. You can ask him, but I think he was we were very much on the level with each other. Like we really just got along. He told me that I had such amazing personality, that I was just so easy to be with and fun to be with. And I didn't play the games that women he knew usually played.
Right.
And it was true, because at that point I was starting to let go of all my games. Like, I'm tired at this point. I'm tired of being in addictive relationships. I'm tired of feeling abused
You're
emotionally.
just like starting to cut the bullshit, just speak it out, name it. And like you see this person being super authentic and you're like, wow, like there's not this like tiptoeing around things anymore.
Super hot. Oh my God. Never had I felt that instant desire, instant turn on for someone, and not just a sexual way, but in this heart, in this emotional way. I never felt my heart turned on by something good. My heart
Wow.
turned on by like pain or seediness, but I never felt my heart start to want to open to somebody really available. And that was the first time I had that.
Yeah.
And that did change me. It showed me what was possible, helped me see my value, helped me trust myself. It's the best thing in the world. It's truly the best thing in the world.
Yeah. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that terror moment, because I think, yeah, when you've been conditioned to something really not healthy and toxic, and to like you either go down the path of like the lone wolf, or you're staying the toxic stuff, or you do the lone wolf thing. But then it's like, how do you let in that moment of like that actual good thing? And like I love that you talk about it as this terror, because there's something so powerful. So can you describe that a little bit more?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm going down the path as a lone wolf, or like polarizing self in order to be safe. The terror, it's like the best terrifying thing. It's, what am I doing? I don't know how to speak this language. I feel like I'm in above my head. I'll never be good enough for him. And my instant thought when I met Steve was, wow, he's incredible, and I don't think I'm good enough for him. I'm used to feeling better than my partners, feeling superior, feeling smarter, feeling more
Right.
educated, feeling more emotionally educated, feeling
Yeah.
healthier. Like I wasn't someone that had normal addictions that young people often had that were cool.
Hmm.
And I just felt like I was superior. But Steve just threw that all out in the water, and I no longer
Yeah.
felt superior. I felt very met. And that's where my ego felt scared, because now I don't have men looking up to me, or men feeling bad because I'm better than them. This is someone that could just look me in the eyes and just be present,
Yeah.
create relationship, instead of me spending all my time begging for it and wanting it, which is what I
Right.
was doing before, always begging, wanting someone to love me more. Why doesn't he love me? And being with Steve helped me put my energy towards creation instead of towards fixing and healing and trying to be better.
Hmm. And at what point in your relationship did you decide to go towards like also opening up a relationship? Like I know that you sometimes you open and you close and you open and you close, like depending on what's going on, and there's always conversations. But like, what got you guys to decide to like do some of the polyamorous relationships?
I realized it was a part of who I am. I was doing personal development in California, right near where I live right now. And it just, something awakened in me where I'm like, wow, I was alone, and I just knew in my body that I'm meant to love more than one person. It sounds insane. And I think it's something that I've been trying to talk myself out of since I was young. Even in high school, like, you're not like this. You're just a slut. You just have daddy issues. You're just weird. I'm like, no, like something in me feels like I could
Mm,
really build life with people, and not just in an emotional sense, but in a physical sense too, and family. Like, what does this mean? And about 3 years back, I came to a place where I'm like, I can't ignore this anymore. I can't deny
right.
this.
Right.
It took
That
over.
was part of your reclamation.
It was in my business, in my personal life. And I had an affair at that point. So I went about it in a very dark, seedy way, which completely destroyed our relationship. But our relationship had to be destroyed anyway, because we didn't know. But
Was this with your husband or with someone else?
it was with
Okay.
Steve. We
Okay.
didn't know
Okay.
it was broken. The relationship was broken as it was. The affair really revealed all of the cracks. I'm not saying
Right.
you'll have an affair, it'll
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
it better. We did a lot of work in order to make our
Yeah.
relationship better. A lot of people don't survive that shit. They hold on to that
Yeah.
pain for years.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that we chose each other instead of our pain.
Yeah.
But after that, realized I was polyamorous. We realized we had an unhealthy dynamic, even though we were the cookie cutter couple. We were like, holy fuck, I didn't know that I was losing myself. And he's like, I didn't know I was losing myself. Whoa. So we did a lot of work that year, got into couples therapy, I think for the first time, and decided that we both felt that having connections with other people, having deep emotional bonds with other people, physically, spiritually, sexually, was really powerful and healing. And when we started saying yes to it, it just opened up my body, my heart, my business. And he became this man that I was already in love with him. But when he started trusting himself, trusting his desires, not being ashamed of them, who is this human? And plus we had direct communication. We decided affairs isn't the way to go, even though most people, a lot of people, over 50% of people have had affairs in relationships. It's like a very high percentage. We decided not to go that route. We wanted to make sure we could be clear, direct, speak our desires, respect each other, make sure each other felt good as we opened up. And then it's felt this amazing journey. In the beginning, it was a little painful for me because I think I was choosing people that would punish me because I felt dirty. I'm like, here's my sexuality, fucking up my life again. First with the youth pastor, now with polyamory. I'm just a fuck up that deserves nothing. So let me attract people who validate my fuck uppery, and then I'll feel calm. So for the first few years, I had really beautiful relationships, but also there was a lot of pain twisted inside of it. And my relationships have been getting a lot better, where I'm also deciding that I'm not broken, I'm not weird, I deserve relationship too. And in that understanding, I'm attracting way more higher quality people. Like the person that I'm seeing right now is like, I'm like mystified by his kindness. And it actually reminds me a lot of when I met Steve. And it's very overwhelming. And was
there a piece of terror there too?
Yeah, very often, actually. I notice I tell him, look, I need you to remind me that it's okay to receive. And he's like, okay. And he'll tell me at different moments, like, you get to receive this. You get to have two men that love you. You get to have two men that are devoted to you. I'm like, it's so much love.
I love it. So if we go a little bit back more to the conversation around recovering from trauma, recovering from body shame, if you met a young woman or a young man that's gone through similar things to you, what would you recommend to them to heal? Like, what would be the path?
What is the path? Whew. Like, there's just flash of like sleepless nights and trying to find a good therapist and failing, and trying to talk to family showing up and failing. Like, the journey is messy.
Yes.
I would say, first of all, the journey is messy. So expect the journey to be messy. It's not linear. There's feeling, oh wow, I'm really getting this. And then all of a sudden, here I am in the same relationship again. And I don't know why. How am I doing this again? So,
well, just to add to that, like that whole element of like, it's in a family system, it's in a culture. So there's that messiness because not everyone's going to be healing the same rate as you or wanting to have the courage to look at the situation the same time as you. So like, I like how you're bringing that element of messiness for that, for sure.
So it's not going to be linear. That's number one. So don't expect things to just practically change overnight.
Yeah.
But something that can change overnight is giving yourself the gift of going outside, looking at a butterfly, like ask the world to show you your worth. Just begin to have a conversation with God or whatever you want to call anything around you that can hold you energetically. Like
get back in touch with that awe of like of beauty and of creation.
Because it's there, and it might be nothing at all, but then the nothing actually is something. Like the mundane is holy, and that's what actually can save us, more so than like these spiritual retreats or Kundalini blah blah blah, or like all of the mantras, or all of that stuff is great, but there's simplicity of being able to go outside. I remember when I started retrieving my soul, like when I started waking up, I was like, okay, God, if you want me to stay alive, fine. Like I won't die, but I need you to show me that you're here. Like I need you to let me know that you actually see me, and I'm not just this fucked up crazy person thinking they're talking to God. And I was like, send me white butterflies. Like I don't know, that would be cool. Ever since then, I'll like have white butterflies, which are probably moths, but I call them white butterflies, just fly around me places that I go. And every time I see it, I'm like, okay, remember, like you're blessed, you're chosen, you're wanted, you're not broken, while at the same time, I'm still healing. So it's like being chosen is I get to choose myself while I'm not perfect, while I still feel insecure sometimes, or I still feel anxiety for no reason. Also, I would say someone that's healing, expect yourself to feel things that are really confusing. When you're happy, you'll feel sad. When you're sad, you'll feel also happiness. Or when you fall in love, it'll be terrifying. In the work that I do with my women right now on Women on Fire, it's all about how can I like use the alchemy of my feelings to create my life. My feelings are rich, denying it and trying to choose one feeling, like bypassing it all to be happy or bypassing it all to be grateful or bypassing is just disaster. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
It's about embracing all of the things, expecting that you're going to feel good when you feel bad and vice versa.
Yeah.
You're going to feel bad when you feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. So what can you recommend around, like, as I feel like for you, this kind of written spoken word, almost poetry, finding the words and you know, what can this artistic process give to people that are healing?
The artistic process, like writing or in general?
Writing. Yeah. Writing.
Oh yeah. I think that's interesting, because sometimes if our relationship to ourselves is critical, it's very hard to let ourselves do anything. It's incredibly hard to let ourselves write if we're really struggling with trusting ourselves. But I get that, and trust yourself anyway. Like, create the art, do the writing, do the painting, do the poetry, sing a song, dance while you're still critical of yourself. Don't wait until you're ready to give to the world. Or
there's an activation that happens in that creation, right?
What's that?
There's an activation that happens in that creative process. Like, there's this energy and a movement and a reclaiming and a, you know, there's a kind of unleashing of your own power, your own voice, you know?
Yeah, I think that's why my writing literally is the basis of my work and how my women find me, is because I know this is for me. Like, I'm writing this because it feels really good for my body and it feels right. And I know these words need to be said and need to be shared. If they're not going to come from me, they're going to come from someone else. And I feel that it's right that it comes from me. It's such a process of healing for me just to share my words, put them out in the world. I really need to get this into a book. I should talk to you about that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you putting my words in your book. Like, that feels really amazing. Thank you. And I know that the next step for me is getting out either ebooks first and then actual paperback, or just ebooks. I'm not really sure yet.
Well, you definitely have enough to make. Do you know people like, let me see.
Hold on, I want to turn on the light 1 second because it's getting dark. The sun's setting.
Yeah. I'm just going to pull. Let me see here. You know, just like people like, you know, I just see you being able to do things like, you know, like Rupi Kaur, like just like there's a part of personal development, but there's powerful words. It could be like, you know, have that kind of element to it, you know. It doesn't have to be that full book explaining everything, but like, because your words are just, you read them and you feel that there's this like potion of like, you know, of realness and liberation in them, you know? So anyways, that's my little 2 cents worth.
Seriously, I think you should write my bio for the rest of my life.
It's funny, right?
I really think you're amazing at it. You can capture people. Unbelievable.
Thank you. That's awesome for me to hear that. I'll take it in too. I'm also practicing receiving.
Oh my God, girl.
Well, I was kind of seeing that we'd be coming to the end of our session right now, but is there anything else you'd like to add or like to say to close this conversation? I mean, I feel like with you, like the hour went like this. I mean, I could do probably 2 hours.
Yeah, we could probably talk about other things. I really appreciate this time. I love having these conversations about trauma in the body. I love giving voice to it. I love helping women connect and let their bodies speak. Actually let the body speak. It's one of the most incredible experiences, and I would go through everything that I had to go through to be able to do what I do today, to the extent to which I do it. Like, I crawled through the dark, wanted to die. Now I have moments where I'm like, fuck, how am I going to do this? But I know what it's like to retrieve myself, and I know what it's like to enjoy life in a way that I never thought I was allowed to. I didn't think I was worthy of, and now I get to, and that feels really good. And I love passing that forward. So I guess
what I love about your story too is that, you know, there were so many moments of being completely alone and like having to survive that, like with all this thing that happened to you, and you know, like having that experience, you know, there's like millions of people out there that are so alone, and just having someone that can just be like echoing what they're experiencing, you're like, that's like, you know, a buoy, like a, you know, it's something, it's like a really life jacket, you know, that can really be helpful.
I love that. I love that. And that's what my Women on Fire groups are. It's a community. It's a virtual community right now until COVID figures its shit out. But it's a virtual community of women all over the world who are loving on each other and lifelines for each other in a way. I'm
Totally.
like, I'm getting just as much as I give. The most incredible people are leaning in, getting out of toxic relationships for the first time in like 8 years, and creating their businesses for the first time. And just the stuff that's happening, the potency of what happens when a woman trusts herself and stops denying it, even though it's scary to talk about it, is incredible. So that I would love to be a lifeline. If you are watching this at home and you're like, you're resonating, please reach out to me.
Yes.
Nothing makes me happier in the world.
And what I love about your group too is like there's this quality of a group process, and there's nothing like when you've been so alone to have that group support you, and it coming from all kinds of different, like other people are seeing you, like all these people haven't been seen, haven't been heard, haven't been like acknowledged in their pain, and like their whole community doesn't want to hear them because it's like potentially going to destroy their communities, you know. So having this group of people that are like, yeah, I know exactly what you went through, it's a very powerful experience, like almost like the ugly duckling finding the swans at the end, you know. It's like, I can actually be beautiful and like, you know, thrive.
That's totally it. If we tell the truth to the wrong people, we can be punished for a very long time, which is why we need sacred spaces to be able to tell our truth and not have to hold it back.
Awesome. Hey, it was so amazing talking to you. And I think like what we just see is that we just have to have more conversations in the future. We'll come up with new topics. But yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, everyone who wants to read a little bit more about Maria's story, not that I go in all those, like the past, about the past and everything, but just about some of her experiences, definitely. They're very illuminating. And I captured her in a few parts of my book of Sex Up Your Life, so you can go and read up a little bit more and capture some of her words as well, because hey, that's part of the beauty, right?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, we'll stay in touch, and thanks for everyone that came and listened to us today. And our next co-creative sex dialogues are going to be with some incredible people, including Davy Ward, who's going to talk about trauma as well, being a biracial woman. We have the leader of the Unleash movement that's going to talk to us about, like, you know, her experience of empowering herself in her body as well, and leading these great, like, amazing, you know, dance parties to like do that. So there's some really cool people that'll be on the podcast. So you're welcome to join us. It's on Tuesday evenings, so that's when we're doing them. So yeah, talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.